So there's lots of ways to spec a computer, there's lots of different ways to go about it. And for good reason, there's lots of different reasons why you need a computer built, as well as there's many different parts to pick from. So that's where this video comes in. Today I'm going to go through CPU and GPU matches for 1080p gaming, 1440p gaming, 4K gaming, as well as at the end make some changes to those selections, those pairings, for if you want just a better gaming experience, as well as if you want to do some form of content creation like video editing. Okay, so the AMD Ryzen R5 1600AF paired with the Nvidia GTX 1650 Super. I love product names. They are a really good pairing, especially if you're wanting an awesome value for money entry-level gaming experience. The 1600AF is really a Ryzen 2600, but has slightly lower clock speeds. You're talking like maybe 1 to 300 megahertz slower than 2600. It's not much, but it's got a much lower price point. Just remember to look for the letters AF in the CPU name. That's a very important detail to get right. Otherwise, you'll be getting the 1600AE, which isn't as good as the 1600AF refresh. Also, other GPU options that are priced about the same as the 1650 Super is the 5700 XT from AMD.
Hey everyone, Editing Me here. So, the day after I filmed this video, Nvidia announced that they're going to be doing the 1650 Super with GDR6 memory. So that increases the value for the 1650 Super. So I just thought that I should add that in here, and that would be something to make sure that you look for when buying, as the new GDR6 models should perform better.
Okay, now for a 1440p or 2K gaming experience, I reckon that the 3600 would be a good place to start for the CPU, and for the GPU, go for the 2060 Super. You'll get the new IPC improvements that Ryzen 3000 has, although the Ryzen 3000 APUs, so the 3000G, 3200G and the 3400G, don't have these improvements. But in all fairness, the 3600 is an amazing CPU, awesome value for money for what it offers, and it scales rather nicely, where in all fairness, you could do 4K with it. It's just not going to be my pick. I would go with something a bit better for 4K gaming. We'll get to that soon. And in my opinion, the extra 2GB of VRAM that the 2060 Super has over the standard non-Super 2060 is actually well worth the cost and helps keep the GPU more relevant in years to come. Other GPU options are the AMD Radeon 5700 and the 5700 XT. Both priced pretty similar to the 2060. One is at one end of the scale, one is at the other end of the scale, in my opinion. Also, the 5600 XT is cheaper, but if memory serves me correctly, AMD did a BIOS update for the 5600 XT, and it actually pushes its GPU performance close to a 5700, but not all coolers can keep up with that for the 5600 XT. They're not made for it, so you might get some slight thermal throttling issues with that. And now to 4K gaming, and I reckon 4K gaming is actually really simple to sell, because start off with a Ryzen 3700. Can go better, but I would say that the starting point is just a 3700. Don't go Intel. Don't go Intel. Just 3700, and go with the 2080 Super from Nvidia for your GPU. That there, I reckon, is the best starting point for 4K gaming. So unfortunately, there's no other GPU that is priced the same as the 2080 Super or above, in all fairness. So if you want to do any form of 4K gaming, then you're going to have to go with Nvidia for your graphics card as of this video. Now, like I said at the start of the video, there's lots of different uses for a PC. There's lots of different parts. So for better gaming experiences, it usually comes down to a better GPU, in my opinion. The CPU that I have picked are rather good, where just step up the GPU level a little bit, and then you have a better gaming experience. So we'll start with 1080p gaming for better gaming experiences, and I reckon that the GPUs to go with would actually be the 1660 Super or the 5600 XT. Again, like I said before, the 5600 XT I'm pretty sure can be updated, her BIOS can be updated, but you may get some thermal throttling issues depending on what GPU you get. You won't get that problem with the 1660 Super. There's also the 1660 Ti, which is better than the Super, but in my opinion, the Super is got a better value for money than the Ti does. But that doesn't mean that the 1660 Ti is a bad card. So for 1440p and 4K gaming for better experiences, they're both limited to just Nvidia, because AMD doesn't have anything currently better on the market than the 5700 XT. So for 1440p, the next best option is the 2070 Super. Probably could push to 4K with that, but personally, I reckon that it is better as a high-end 1440p card. Maybe if you're just playing esports games, like really easy games on the graphics card, then maybe 4K. Outside of esports games, no. Just high-end 1440p for the optimal performance. And speaking of 4K, the 2080 Ti is the next best card, and then you got the RTX Titan, which does cost a heck of a lot more than the 2080 Ti, but has less overclocking potential than what the 2080 Ti does. Of course, that overclocking headroom does stand better if you're doing some form of extreme overclocking like I'm on to. So we've done better experiences for gaming, but what if you're going to stream or do some form of content creation? Now for both of these, having a better GPU is helpful, but also having a better CPU is very helpful. But for content creation, also having more RAM capacity is also very important for how well your experience will be. So that does play a factor. And in my opinion, I'll be going with a RAM upgrade before a CPU upgrade if you are doing some form of content creation for a value for money experience. But all these different CPU choices I'm going to put out will be a benefit to both streaming and content creation. So let's get to it. 1080p, the 2700, second gen Ryzen, 8 cores, 16 threads, be perfect for a budget 1080p editing rig. In my opinion, it's really nicely. For 1440p, I'll be going with the 3700. Again, it's got a couple extra cores, 4 more threads, so it'll be excessively helpful. For 4K though, there's lots of options, it turns out. There wasn't too many options for graphics cards, but for CPUs, you've got the choice of really whatever you want. You've got the 9700K, which has less threads than the 3700, but depending on what you're using, it might be a viable option. Of course, I think it's more expensive than the 3700, so that does play a factor. But for more cores and more threads, the 3900X and the 3950X, both from AMD, are really good. The 3900X is 12 cores, 24 threads, just awesome. But the 3950X, 16 cores, 32 threads, the first mainstream CPU to actually have that core and thread count, is a productivity beast.
So, editing me again. Unfortunately, my camera cut out in between recording segments. So for Photoshop and Premiere Pro, if that's what you're using for content creation, then the best pick is actually the 9900K, which is also the best gaming CPU. So that would be really good for streaming as well.
And okay, there are the HEDT CPUs, but while they are good, don't get me wrong, I think for the concept of looking at value for money, I think sticking with mainstream is probably the way to go about it. Alright, so if you're going to go with these recommendations, just remember, if you're going to get a super variant card, actually make sure that you gain a super variant card, because there might still be some non-super cards out in the wild. Also, the AMD graphics cards do have black screen issues. I'm not 100% sure how these issues come about, because I don't have an AMD graphics card. But they are doing driver updates to fix these issues. They still do persist to some extent, they are better. But if you don't want to have any form of issues with your graphics card, then go with Nvidia for the time being, but AMD appears to be working somewhat hard on something that should have been done right in the first place. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that bell notification while you're there. So let me know what GPU and CPU, or CPU and GPU, whatever order you want to put them, that you are using. For me, I'm using a 1060 6GB, as well as a 8700K, because I do 1080p gaming with an ultra-wide monitor, but also with video editing, and I do some drawing digitally as well. But yes, let me know what you use down in the comment section below, and I hope to see you all next time in the next video. See ya!